You're on.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Revkin. This is Tuesday, January 30th, 2007. We're interviewing Larry Nicola. And here's Larry. Okay.
Hi, good morning.
And Bob Herzog is on camera. And then go ahead and introduce yourself.
Tricia McGrath, Lindsay Carl.
And these are people who are attending our interview as part of the Silver Lake Historical Collective. Back to you, Cheryl and Larry.
Okay. Larry, well, hi Larry. Thanks for being here. And it just seems like anybody in Silver Lake knows about you and knows what you've done here and about your family. So we really appreciate you being here. Why don't you just tell us, where you live and about your family to start with, where you were born and where your parents live.
Okay, my family basically moved here in the 40s. My mother's from West Virginia, my father's from North Dakota. My father's family homesteaded in North Dakota, and they're all Lebanese. I had a chance to go back to Lebanon in '71. I met my family's, both my mother's first cousins live across the street from my father's first cousins. It's still very close, but they've never been there. But anyhow, that's my heritage. And my family moved here, and they lived right across the street from General Hospital. Their first home.
General Hospital was where?
In East LA.
Oh, I see.
On Soto Street.
Mm-hmm.
And then they moved in the 40s. All the Nicolas moved into one apartment over on Malbert, right off Vermont near Hollywood. Malbert.
Can you stop for a sec? You say your family moved here in the 40s. Who was it? It was your brother? Your
my father and his twin brother. They had a market. They opened a market on Sunset and Fountain called the Nicola Twins Market.
I see. What were their full names?
Lester and Mike Nicola.
And your father was?
Lester.
Lester.
Yeah.
And his twin brother was Mike,
Mike.
right? And then their wives?
Helene is my Uncle Mike's wife, and Larice is my mother.
Your mother,
Yes.
right. And how many children did your parents have?
There's 3 boys and 1 girl in my family.
And who are they?
My older brother's Alan, then comes me, and then Dale, my brother, now he lives in Tulsa, and my sister's Leslie, who lives in Michigan.
Michigan, I see. Okay, so they moved here in the 40s. You don't remember the exact year?
Well, they had a group called the 46ers. I mean, when all the people, that whole community moved here in the 44 to 46.
By the whole community, you mean the Lebanese community?
Lebanese community, yeah.
Right.
We still have a church. We go to church on Sunset. 3rd and Alvarado, and that's been our church since. Well, it was first on Beverly. It was about the size of this room. That's where I was baptized. But then they got a bigger church on. It's a cathedral now on 3rd and Alvarado. It's called St. Nicholas Cathedral. Orthodox Cathedral, and we still go there, and when we walk in, there's still like 300 people that know and love you. I mean, it's still a very small community. Actually, my daughter's in a sweetheart ball, and that whole group that I went to Sunday school with is older now, and their daughters are in it, so we're getting together. It's nice to have that heritage, and you walk in and still have that strong.
So what year were you born?
1949.
49. So your parents were already living in the neighborhood here, right? And then did you go to school, elementary school in Silver Lake?
Yeah, when I was about 2 years old, we moved to Tracy Street, 3926 Tracy Street, and we lived right across the street from the front door of Marshall High.
Oh.
So we were there, and maybe I was like 1, and we actually, and there's a picture I should find it. It's of me, my brother, 2 brothers. Every morning they would play the trumpet out in front of the school, and my mother had us out there in our pajamas every morning saluting the flag. So the Marshall High took a picture of us saluting the flag out in front of our house.
Wow.
So we knew all the action that was going on at Marshall High. We were right across the street, and anybody that was a friend or would stop over to the house, and we had a big playground. I knew all the janitor's kids, so we were all over the building, and we had a football field right across the street, so couldn't have been better.
You don't happen to have a picture of you saluting the flag?
Well, my mom has her. I can get it.
Yeah, we could film that or shoot that later or scan it.
Yeah.
That would be great. That's such a nice story.
Yeah.
So what elementary school did you go to? Was it Franklin?
Franklin.
Franklin, right.
Franklin.
And did you feel like the neighborhood was pretty integrated then? I mean, there were Lebanese, Asian Americans.
Yeah, it was very mixed. It was always mixed. Probably all my best friends were Jewish.
Mhm.
And I still have those friends today. Bob Kolodny, who lived up on Hillhurst, I still see a lot. Bob Sachs, I see a lot of the friends I grew up with. Rotundi was, I met in junior high at King.
Oh, I see.
And, but
Barney?
Who?
Was he a friend? Well, it's okay. It's whoever. I have a neighbor in Echo Park who said he grew
The
up.
Kaplans, I mean, all those people, I still see a lot of them come through the restaurant. And it was such a great neighborhood that, you know, in those days you could kind of run free and it was safe, you know. There was the hobbies, you know where the cheese store is now?
Yes.
Say Cheese was a hobby store.
On Hyperion.
Yeah, it was a little hobby store, so you went down there and bought your models. And the Hub Market, and you know, there was, you know,
Yeah. How did you get around? Like on bicycle or you walk?
I had a little
Scooter
too.
You did?
We had bikes and we had skateboards. I remember the guy whose his mother owned Ballard's Hardware was Wade Ballard, and he was a big guy. And we used to ride these skateboards. We used to take the metal skates off and put them on the 2x4 and go down the street.
You'd only patented.
Well, it was dangerous. I mean, you hit a crack in there. But Marshall High we had the first aid station at our house, and everything was there.
So you were kind of a family that other people came to.
Yeah.
In the neighborhood, I guess.
Yeah.
And then you said your father and your uncle then owned a market, right?
Yes.
And where was that market?
On Sunset and Fountain.
I see.
There was the
And
Keystone Cleaners, and then there was Nicola Twins Market.
Nicola Twins Market.
Yeah.
Do you happen to remember the address?
4333 Sunset Boulevard.
And what did you have in the market?
It was like a community center. We specialized in meats. All the kids that came in either got a slice of bologna or went into the one of the walk-ins, dipped their hand in a pickle barrel and got a pickle. And it was really, you know, everybody in the neighborhood had accounts there. The kids came and signed, and it was really. There was nobody like the Twins. It was an institution in the neighborhood. People from KCET, ABC. They had an ABC sandwich, and
what was that? I'm curious.
it was on pita bread when pita bread was just first coming out with bologna, salami, hot cheese, onions, and tomatoes.
Really?
Yeah.
That was the ABC special.
Yes, yeah,
right?
that
Was there a KCET special?
No.
No.
But there was another big.
Ham on rye.
I'm sorry, another one?
And the other one was a breakaway sandwich. It was on a big Italian roll and had little sections in it, and it was also very good. But our meat, you know, when you walked into the meat market, you asked for a T-bone, and they would go inside and take it off of the loin, and we aged our own meat, so they'd cut off the mold and take the steak and cut it. And
how did they learn? They were actually butchers then? Your dad and your uncle?
Yeah, and when I was a young man, we'd bring in quarters of beef and hang them up and break them down.
I see.
We didn't buy anything processed. It was just you bought it in quarter beefs. And then you had your loins, you had your...
So it was kind of a deli as well? I mean, did you have Lebanese food and American food? Or?
We had some Lebanese things, but it was mostly American.
I see. Did your mom work there too?
My mom, my aunt, my cousins.
And when you were young, you worked there?
I worked there of my relatives, of my cousins, and so I worked there the most. We ended up buying the corner, and I was instrumental in buying that corner, but then it didn't work out with, it just didn't work out for me, so I left.
So when you say buy the corner, you mean you bought all the property and then rented some of it out?
They leased it for years. They were there for like 40 years. I mean, they leased that market. Then they took a master lease on the whole corner, and then we ended up buying it. And I was very instrumental in buying it, but after we bought it, there was a lot of confusion. So I left and started myself.
And how long was the market actually open?
About 45 years.
45 years,
Yeah.
so from 46, another 45 years?
Let's see. No, I'm sorry, about 38 years.
38 years.
Yeah.
So from 46 plus 38, so 80 something.
Yeah, it closed in like about 80.
And they just closed the market altogether. They didn't sell the market.
They sold the property,
The property.
which was a shame because it's really,
So valuable now.
well, it's just not really, it used to be like a castle on the corner of a brick building. They used to do a lot of filming on that corner. You know, there was the Keystone Cleaners, Tom and Tony's Pizza across the street, where McDonald's was a lumber yard, and then there was a place that made mouthpieces for bands around the world, and there was 8 action appliances. They repaired washing machines. Then on our lot we had on the corner was the Keystone Cleaners. We had the market. Then we had a coffee shop there that everybody used to come and eat. We used to have those hamburgers in the baskets.
That was your family-owned
Yeah.
coffee shop?
Uh-huh.
And that was called?
It was just called the coffee shop.
The coffee shop.
And it turned into, my brother used it for a while. He made candles in there when he got older. And we had Christmas tree lots there, and we had a lot of different things.
So you really have fond memories, and there was a lot of commerce going on there.
It was wild.
Everybody.
My dad used to bring people home, and I'd say, "Who are those people sleeping in the living room?" He says, "Well, they didn't have any money, and they were here trying to make a film or something." And my dad was very, very, very good luck.
So that was the home on Tracy Street?
Mm-hmm.
I see.
And we were there till for probably 20 years. Yeah. Then we moved to Lay Drive in Los Feliz.
How do you spell that?
Ley.
I see. While you were still living at home?
Yeah.
So did you learn how to cook from your family, your parents?
My grandmother, when I was a little boy, my grandmother had a house on Commonwealth. I don't know if you know, it's the big craftsman house there on Commonwealth near Finley.
Oh, yeah.
And she owned that house, and she rented rooms upstairs to actors and actresses, but she was the cook in the Lebanese community. She cooked for the church. We had these things called mahadajans. They would be at they used to have the breakfast club in Los Feliz. Do you remember the breakfast club? There was all kinds of staples down Los Feliz Boulevard and Riverside.
Riverside Drive, there was a breakfast club.
Breakfast club, and it had a big fairgrounds, and we used to do these big events there. But when I was a kid, she washed my hands and put the love for the feeding people into my hands, and that's why I can cook. I feed people. You know, I'm not classically trained, but I.
You knew you enjoyed it, yeah. And were you bilingual then?
No.
Just English?
Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. So you went to high school at Marshall. Did you do any sports there?
I was on the football team.
Football team? Do you remember any classmates? Isn't Tom LaBonge?
Chris LaBonge, his older brother, was on our team.
Was he the captain of the team?
He was the best guy. Well, Bob Colati and Chris LaBonge were our stars on our team.
How did your team do?
We did okay. We did all right.
Weren't there some kind of famous people that came out of your class or around your class at Marshall High School? Do you know any of them? Or not really? Tom LaBonge, I guess. Or
Yeah, Tom
Lance Ito?
Lance Ito.
Well, if you think of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. But do you remember who you went to the prom with?
Yeah, I went to prom with April Warner, and I still see her once. She calls once in a while. And I went to grad night with Margie Brown. So
after you graduated from high school, what did you do? This was around Vietnam?
Yeah.
What year did you graduate?
I graduated in '67. I did one semester at LACC, and then I moved to Santa Barbara City College and lived in Isla Vista.
I see.
And
you weren't drafted, I guess.
I got drafted.
You got drafted?
Yeah, I was drafted.
In what year?
'69.
And do you remember any other friends from high school?
There was 20 guys at the same party the night before we're going into the service next day. They were from this neighborhood. They were all at one party. We're going in the next day.
Yeah.
They drafted the whole neighborhood. Everybody went.
Yeah.
Mostly everybody.
Were there any draft resistors or people involved in the anti-war movement that you remember at all? Or people were kind of gung-ho?
We were more confused than gung-ho, I think. I mean, once you got in, you realized it was not really where you wanted to be. I was lucky I didn't go to Vietnam. I went to Fort Ord for basic training. They made me They sent me to cook school,
Yeah, that's
of all
okay.
things, and then I stayed at Fort Ord till I had 6 months to go, which is very odd. And they sent me to Northern Germany with the British Army,
Oh,
and which was great because then I cooked every other day and with the British, and it was just for 30 people, and I hung out with a German rock band and ended up taking a discharge there. My brother met me, and we bought a Volkswagen bus for $80 and drove all the way to Lebanon and back.
oh my
It took
gosh.
6 months.
Wow. Uh-huh. So you had somewhat of a positive experience, I guess, and
Oh yeah.
also the Army helped to sort of maybe contributed to your education as a chef, maybe to
Well,
some extent, or
yeah.
in a negative or positive way.
I think you can take I saw that you could take 10 different kitchens and you give them the same food,
Mhm.
and people used to love to come to our mess hall because I don't know, we just touched food better. I mean, you can take the same recipe and people make it interpreted 10 different ways.
Mhm.
And
Did you learn anything from the Brits or the Germans?
Yeah, how not to prepare meals.
they're not very good. How to drink.
No, how to drink. Okay, all right, great. So, I guess you had some classmates who maybe died in Vietnam, or
Yeah.
people who you knew but maybe weren't close friends with.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Well, there was
Was there any kind of a memorial in Silver Lake, or
No.
no, nothing like that? So, then eventually you came back here to the neighborhood.
Came back, and then I traveled a lot. When I came back, I was 21, and I worked with my father, and I would travel. I'd probably travel 6 months of the year and work 6 months of the year.
Oh,
But I've been on a wagon train through the Blue Ridge Mountains. That was part of my life, that I was trying to save the world, and I was against the development of the pipeline and all this stuff.
mhm.
And so I tried to get people to go across country on a wagon train across country to bring their attention to,
Conditions in
Yeah.
the Blue Ridge Mountains or something?
well, in the world.
In the world.
I thought we were communicating too fast.
Uh-huh.
And
Mhm.
that was, and I ended up riding on a wagon train through the Blue Ridge Mountains.
So your father kind of supported your adventures?
Yeah.
Mhm. And when you came back, you earned the money to...
I would be behind the counter with a big beard like this and long hair, and he just loved me. He didn't say
Yeah.
anything. So
Uh-huh.
he was great.
I'm kind of curious if you remember how much he paid his employees, or, if you remember anything about money, I guess maybe from the beginning of the market.
I don't know how they made it because they gave away everything, and they were very generous. But everything was in cash.
Mhm.
Mostly everything was in cash.
When you worked there, do you remember if you got paid a wage, or?
I know it was $1 a day in the beginning,
Mhm.
and as I got older, I got more, but it wasn't very much.
Mhm. Yeah, but it's supported. Do you remember how much rent they were paying by any chance? No, okay.
No,
So, when did you meet your wife? Was that much later?
she was doing an art when I had LA Nicola, and LA Nicola was built by 8 guys from the varsity football team at Marshall High.
Well, maybe we should start with that. When did you find the property for?
Well, I had a wholesale produce company. After I kind of settled down, I had a wholesale produce company. I was a purveyor to like a lot of the restaurants, like Yesterday's, Old World, Chasen's. Those are all my accounts.
Was your office in Silver Lake, or?
And then the back room of my dad's market.
Oh.
And I had parking spaces in the produce market. I had 3 trucks. And I hired guys, David Halls from Echo Park, Silver Lake, and Tommy, I think his name is. But both of them Silver Lake Marshall guys, and
Yeah.
they worked for me when we started off. And it was quite an adventure. It was really fun.
How did you get the idea
To do produce?
to do wholesale produce? Yeah.
Well, from my dad's market, I learned produce, but then I met a guy. I opened a, like I said, I was a traveler, kind of a vagabond guy. On Washington Boulevard near the Venice Pier, there was an empty lot, and I rented this lot and called it Honest Nabiha's Bazaar, my grandmother's name, and I built a fair, and that's when they first started. I was one of the first ones to do, rent places for skates and different stalls
On Venice Beach.
in Venice Beach on Washington Boulevard. This was in the 70s.
Wow.
And I met this guy that managed a chart house, and we're still friends today, and he wanted to get in the produce business. And I knew how to buy the produce, so I bought the produce. We started a stand there, and we started a one truck, one case to chart house, and ended up, we grew the business really fast, and we did go on.
And you knew how to buy the produce because of your experience.
And I
in
had
the market.
connections down there from my relatives, had parking spaces and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to trace those things back, you know, how someone so successful as you are, you know, what all the different, you know, ingredients were really that contributed to.
A lot of it's luck and you know, it's...
And family.
And family, yeah.
Yeah.
And connections.
Right. So, okay, you were doing wholesale produce and then decided from there to open LA Nicola?
Yeah, I always wanted to have a restaurant. When I was 8 years old, I knew I wanted to have a restaurant. I was going to call it Larry's Octagon. And Larry's Octagon was a big restaurant, it had 8 different corners. And I always thought it should be on the corner of Franklin and Vermont. Because it needed to be big, but it had 8 different kitchens. So it had 8 different, it had Chinese, Lebanese, German, and all these different foods with the United Nations of seating in the middle. And it would actually work in Vegas still. You know, it's
like a food court.
It's like a food court. It's like farmer's market, but a little more upscale. Like you went out to dinner, and you know you want to eat French and you want to eat Japanese, and you get your food and eat together. So it makes everybody happy.
So that was your vision.
That was when I was 8 years old. That was what I wanted to do. So when I was in the produce business, I got a postcard from somebody in Austria, and I was at my dad's store, and I was standing there. I saw this postcard and looked across the street, and it was the same building as that one in the picture, but boarded up.
Oh.
So, I mean,
The light bulb went up.
yes, I went across the street and I said, "Well, what's going on with this building?" They said, "Well, we're going to move out of here in about a month." So I said,
Is this the first restaurant?
"This is LA Nicola, yeah."
On Sunset Boulevard.
Oh, the one in Silver Lake?
Yeah.
Near Fountain?
Yeah. And I went
He
up.
said he was moving out in a month?
Yeah. So I raised some money from some guy. And,
Made him an offer he can refuse.
well, I didn't have any money, but I found an investor, and he put up some money, and we built it.
You
My
said you built
brother-
it with 8 guys
Yeah.
from Marshall?
Yeah, Michael was the architect.
Michael Rotundi.
Yeah, Michael Rotundi, who's a very important part of this whole community.
We might just say Michael Rotundi is a famous architect now, I guess,
Yeah.
and he's worked on several of your restaurants.
Yeah.
And he was your classmate at Marshall, or one of your
He was the
classmates
quarterback.
at Marshall High School, and kind of also a figurehead. But the design of LA Nicola was very, very sort of high tech.
It was on the cover of Wet magazine. It says "Building Petru's Building in East Hollywood." I mean, it was very controversial, and we were showing
Why don't you
art.
explain why? Yeah.
We were showing art. There was a brick building, and then it was a deconstructed shed that went through it. It juxtaposed. That's when everybody learned that new word, juxtaposed into the building, and it was.
It was raw, right?
It was raw.
A little bit like this. It was one of the first restaurants where the pipes were showing.
Yeah.
The ceiling was gutted out.
Yeah.
And it was an art gallery.
Yeah.
And an art gallery.
And we had Emily, and that's how I met Melissa. Is she was doing an interview on the Art While You Eat.
On art what?
Art While You Eat.
Art While You Eat.
Yeah.
So she's Melissa's.
She was a
nurse
writer.
wife.
I met her. She was working at ABC, and as a page, and then she quit and was. But I knew her from ABC, and then she went to work for a writer, and she was doing an article on me, and during that article, I saw her that weekend at a party, and it was up in the Hollywood Hills. And I had this old Buick convertible, and so they were out of champagne, so I took her down to the liquor store to buy some Rouge champagne. We came back, and we were sitting on the side of the road up in Hollywood Hills, and there's this anise growing on the side of the road. And I was chewing it, and I said, "Have you ever tasted anise?" She said, "No." I said, "Well, come here." So that was it. We started kissing.
Keep it straight. So you don't happen to have that article that she wrote about LA Nicola? No?
I did.
Maybe? Okay, well, what, do you want to stop for a minute? And no.
It's up to you. Why don't we have to go handheld with a camera to look at articles
Okay,
and pictures.
so
So let's do
we'll
the
come back
interview
to
and then
that.
we'll look at the.
So what can you tell me about LA Nicola? I mean, did you have a big opening, and Did you feel like?
Yeah, it was wild. I look at pictures now of LA Nicola, and you know, it was. I feel bad. I almost cried this morning looking at the pictures. I mean, it was such a community spot, and you know.
It was our neighborhood pub.
Yeah.
That's what it was. I mean, for the people of the 80s.
And at that time, it was a rough time financially, and we got enticed by this company downtown, and we should have never left because after we moved down there, we lost everything. Really,
What do you mean?
we lost our home. Everything when we moved.
That was the new restaurant in the San Juan Bank building.
It was a totally beautiful restaurant, but after the riots and everything,
It was gorgeous,
yeah.
but
People weren't doing
People-
And there was no
Didn't go
bar.
downtown.
It was just a little bar, and
Yeah.
but LA Nicola, the Nick's in Beverly Hills is a lot like LA Nicola.
for that neighborhood.
Yeah.
tell us where Nick's is, if you would.
It's located midtown between Silver Lake and Venice.
Silver Lake?
Yeah.
Sun-
Oh,
Oh,
I don't tell
Midtown, right,
people.
I'm sorry,
Beverly
I'm
Hills.
talking about streets.
We don't say
It's on
Beverly Hills.
Camden Drive. Okay.
Cannon.
Cannon.
We say it's
Cannon.
midtown between Venice and Silver Lake.
Right.
People ask.
Right.
But it's on Cannon Drive.
Yeah,
Yes.
and it's called Nick's.
Nick's.
Right.
The next time I pack a lunch and head west, I'll stop by.
Well, I never thought I would go past Vermont, to tell you the truth. And when I took over Nick's, it was boarded up, and I just liked the feel. You know, it's kind of they've got that LA Nicola feel.
Tell us about, if you would, if I may, tell us about some of the celebrities that frequented LA Nicola, because I have a little story.
Princess Stephanie, Bertolucci, Baryshnikov, Diane Sawyer, John Huston, Keith Richards.
Any Silver Lake, I'm trying to think, Silver Lake people who made it big.
Tom Waits.
Tom Waits, right.
Tom Waits, Adam Ant. I mean, it was.
I have a story I stole from one of my pals that we used to hang out there in the Martini Lounge. He now lives in San Francisco. Jay Ordman, the regular in the Martini
Oh,
Lounge.
yeah.
Anyway, he was at the bar one evening. I wasn't there, but he said this extremely stunning African-American young woman stepped up to the bar to order a drink, and he got to chatting with her. And she was waiting for her first big break in film. And it was Holly Berry.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
I love that story.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
He was just chatting with her, and he said, "Well, I'm Jay," and she said, "Well, I'm Holly Berry," and that was,
Oh my
way back. Yeah.
Oh, Danny Glover was one of my favorites too. Danny Glover was. I used to love to watch him eat.
Do you remember his favorite dish?
He just loved our food. It was just our food
Anything.
wasn't too frilly. It was just like really good.
Yeah, I wanted you to describe the menu a little bit.
Well, we had our cuisine was our own cuisine. We were I believe one of the first California cuisine restaurants.
Right?
And we did stuff that was cutting edge in 80. And then at that time there was Studio Grill was on Santa Monica Boulevard in Hollywood. And there was Michael's in Santa Monica. Michael's still going. And Artisan Phillips, I think, moved up to the wine country. But that was it. That was all that there was in kind of contemporary cuisine. There was a place called Metro on Alvarado, and his name was Donald Young. It was a brilliant place. I mean, did you remember go there?
No, I never did.
Yeah, he was before my place. He was a friend of Peter Shires. And he was an Echo Park guy.
Actually, was Peter in your high school class?
Peter went to Belmont.
Belmont,
yeah.
right, yeah. He's my-
But we were always friends,
Uh-huh.
you
You were buddies?
Yeah, I saw him a couple weeks ago.
Mhm.
Yeah. He's really big.
So how did you develop your menu? I mean, California cuisine?
I think, being in the produce business and being in the meat business and cook and being, well-traveled, it was just about preparing good food, I always bought good things and made it simple, but I have the ability to, like you could find a place on somebody that needs some work. I know how to put this together with this and use restraint, which was taught to me by Michael Rotundi in architecture, using restraint to not to do much. I still tell my chefs.
Keep it simple.
Yeah, and we tell everybody put Buddha on everything. And whatever your Buddha is, put it on that food if you're making it for somebody. Whoever your Buddha is, put the Buddha on it and leave it alone. you know.
I think the fun part too about L.A. Nicola in the Martini Lounge was that you could eat at the bar. You
Yeah.
could eat at one of the booths on the side, and they would put down a clean piece of white butcher paper. And our favorite thing to get in my group was the fried calamari and Caesar salad.
Oh, yeah.
And a big glass of Chardonnay.
There you go.
Or a martini, maybe the third for the evening. But yeah, the food was terrific. And the dining room was very pleasant too, but that's where you took out-of-town guests to.
And the art was always crazy.
And the art was great. The
Yeah.
art was fun. People would wander around with their cocktails and look at the art and chat with the people sitting down at the booths and the tables about the artwork. It was an eclectic experience.
How did you choose the art curator? People came to you? And...
There was some people from Echo Park that kept, sorry. But they kept asking me, could we show artists? No, this is a restaurant, blah, blah, blah. And then finally I said yes, and it went off great.
Yeah.
And then once we started doing it in the dining room, then we opened the bar. We didn't open the bar. We had the restaurant for about a year, then we opened the bar. And then Billy Poveda, who was one of the waiters, Billy owns Oil Factory now, and he went with Annie Lennox for years, and he was, great story. Billy Poveda went to King, and I used to know him as a little kid, used to come and get sandwiches and stuff. He was dancing with the San Francisco Ballet. He came down to visit his mother one weekend, got run over by a car, broke his leg, so he couldn't dance. So he came into the restaurant on crutches with a cast and needed to get a job. So we made him a busboy on crutches.
Oh, you did.
Yeah.
That's
kind of
Nicola Hart.
yeah.
That's a
There
great
it is.
story.
Within 2 years, he was an investor in the restaurant. I mean, he's so successful now. I mean, he lived with Annie Lennox for 4 or 5 years. I mean, quite a story. He went from busboy, then he took over the whole upstairs and had a oil factory. He's had celebrities all up there, and it was pretty fun. Good guy.
So, how long was the restaurant open? When did you?
13 years.
13 years.
Yeah.
And what made you decide to sell it? I guess you sold it.
Well, at that time, the business was not great. I mean, it was a bad time for the whole community. It was not doing great.
What year was it?
93.
That you sold it. So you opened it in 1980.
Yeah, and we were enticed by Mitsui Fudosan USA to do this brilliant restaurant downtown.
Oh, I see.
And I was ready for a new challenge, and it may not have been the right move, but that's the way it went.
Yeah.
You know, and it was, like I said, look at these pictures now, I go, oh, you know, but we did have a great time when we were there. And
You sold it was Cobalt Cantina right afterwards. And I guess you said maybe business wasn't so good. Do you think it was affected maybe by AIDS, or is that a factor?
You know, LA Nicola was the first restaurant to have an AIDS fundraiser. Not even the gay restaurants would do it. It was like 1982, maybe 1 or 2, and it was there was a celebrity singer, but nobody knew what to do. They said, well, can we go to restaurants and eat? Everybody was totally confused. So they had a meeting and a fundraiser at Nick's at LA Nicola, and that was the first one. All the restaurants, Bunkhouse, Frog Pond, everybody was there, and.
Yeah, I know, and there were a couple maybe memorial services there, like Tom Villard, who was an actor, had his memorial service at LA Nicola.
Great guy.
Other people, I know the restaurant was patronized by the gay community quite a bit around.
And we were one of the first restaurants to really show like Carlos Alvarez and all the Latin artists.
Yeah.
I mean, Frank Romero, all those guys were shown at LA Nicola. Gil Cedillo hung out there, so we're still good friends. Antonio Villarosa. I mean, all those guys hung out. That whole generation hung out there.
LA Nicola.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And then you have 2 children.
2 children.
Right.
Luke
When
and
were they were born in the 80s? Was that?
Luke is 21, so he's in the 80s, and Michaela's 90.
90. So they were born while you owned the restaurant.
Yeah.
That's right.
And Luke at 19 was running Nick's. I mean, he's really good at what he does.
Uh-huh.
He's a real Silver Lake guy. He loves.
Is he living in Silver Lake now?
He's living in San Francisco right now,
Oh.
finishing school. He's going to Academy of Art University.
What is his
Advertising.
major? Advertising?
Uh-huh.
And Michaela? Yes.
She's at Loxton.
Oh, she's still in high school.
Mhm.
I see. Where did they go to elementary school?
Ivanhoe.
I don't know. They both went to
Ivanhoe and Luke went to Hamilton High,
Hi.
and Michaela's at Loxton.
Your kids, I guess Luke, I know, was friends with kind of a good solid group of kids in Silver Lake that we'll probably be interviewing in 10 years,
Yeah.
right? But do you remember his little group of friends?
Preston, Danny,
Danny, Walter.
Walter,
right?
yeah.
Jonah.
Jonas, yeah, he's in Chicago.
Right.
Nice guy.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I know you had a nice group of friends.
How long have you lived in your house? Your current
Here?
address? Yeah, around the corner, actually.
I probably 10 years, about 10, 12 years. But we had 2 houses on Angus, and then when we lost the restaurant, we didn't go broke. We just couldn't pay. You know, we never would go broke. We just sold it, and we moved up into the Van Patten house, the Schindler,
Where
on
was that?
Marino.
Oh.
We rented that for about 3 years.
Oh. Mhm.
And then it was just magical. Somebody just let us buy this house. It was
On Lakeview?
Lakeview Terrace, yeah.
Right. Uh-huh. Great. Uh-huh. Well, do you have any like strong memories of Silver Lake or landmarks in Silver Lake or events or anything that comes
Well,
to mind
the
before
thing,
you go to
you know,
your
I
husband?
see all these people from the past. It was the neighborhood. You could go to any house and eat at any time. You could, you know, everybody knew everybody. Everybody worked in the neighborhood, which is a shame. If you were a doctor, maybe you drove 2 miles, 3 miles, but maybe down to Wilshire was a long way at that time. And now it's like this commute thing is terrible. I think my kids spent more time in the bus than they did in school when they were going to Hamilton and all these places. And
So it was like a
shame.
strong community for you when you were growing up, really.
And I remember when we used to deliver groceries, I mean, I would walk into the backyards of I was like a young kid, and it was a gay party. I didn't know what was going on, but but everything was everything. I mean, it was the way it is. It was a kind of a neighborhood where everybody got along. You
could be yourself. And
you know, growing up in Silver Lake, you could eat with kings and queens, or you could go into a third world country and nothing was out of place. I mean, it was all there.
Burritos to Bellinis.
Absolutely. I mean, it was. I always thought that my favorite picture in my restaurant would be a punk next to a politician. You know, so
It happened.
yeah,
It happened.
yeah, always. It was like, you know.
Okay. Well, why don't you bring out some of your memories for us? and
Okay, we're going
photos.
to stop.
Ellie.
You missed all that?
I don't know. Do this black and white one again, Larry, from,
This one.
yeah. I
This
think
looks like me, a bunch of my cousins.
And here, why don't you just get this one?
This
for
is my
sure.
mother's house.
This
This
is
is
just in case,
me,
because it might-
Luke, my mom,
Larissa, right?
Larice.
Larice, okay. Okay.
And do this one again for me.
This is in front of my mother's dress shop. It's called Dress Affair on Hillhurst. And Clarissa, it was called Dress Affair, but that's me, my dad, my brother Dale, my brother Alan.
Did you get this, Bob, building the
I
bar?
got that. I must
Okay.
have hit the record button with my thumb
Okay.
accidentally. I was
Okay.
so involved.
This is some.
Meet the chef.
Yeah, this is me with Claude Mann. He was my chef in. Remember Claude Mann and Perla Bataya?
No, I don't.
Perla Bataya is a great singer. She's going to be at Royce Hall.
Oh, my God. Oh, oh.
She sang with Leonard Cohen,
Oh, my
and
God.
that's her husband. And he was my chef in Mexico. And let's see, this is just some demonstration I
Did
did.
you have the Nicolas down on Sunset?
No, that was the Rassick family.
That was a different family.
Yeah,
It was called Nicola.
They were,
Nicola, yeah, and
weren't
Nicola.
they Greek?
they were Yugoslavian.
Yugoslav?
This is at Ellie Nicola, behind the line. That's my dad. It's a good shot of my dad.
Oh, we've seen that one.
That's, yeah, his
Here's
dad.
his dad.
Mhm. Oh,
This,
sorry.
This is Palm Sunday at St. Nicholas, 3rd and Alvarado.
I missed your dad here.
Look at that beautiful boy.
I thought that was St. Vincent's.
Oh, it's right across the street from St.
Oh, it's
Vincent.
right
Yeah,
across
yeah. This is in my office upstairs at Nicola.
Larry with a tie.
Yeah,
Oh, there we go.
very little thinner.
Yeah, this is back from the 80s.
What's this?
Well, look at this one. This is my parents' 25th anniversary at the medical building on Wilshire. Look at my beard.
Oh, right here.
The medical building on
It
Wilshire
was
Had a-
Wilshire Medical Building.
Trying
Had
to do
an
two
event?
things. That's Larry.
That's
They
my
had a
parents.
room for an event, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. You have, are these some big old photos of your
Let's
folks?
see. These are my cousins.
Certificate of dental health.
Oh, this is from Hugh Brown from the neighborhood. He made this poster for me. I love my job.
What did you do with that poster?
I still have it up.
Oh, great.
That's me and Melissa. Oh, look at this. This is the front of LA Nicola.
Oh, the entry.
Yeah.
The shed.
We had whitewashed this in.
This is the shed.
Look at
And
that.
what became the smoking room.
Look at that. That's the twins right there, Mike and Les. That shows a lot about the art and everything right there.
Yeah, the style, really.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, I'm gonna have,
Closing party at LA Nicola. This is downtown at
LA Nicola.
Oh.
Nicola.
the
Nicola.
one in the San Juan Bank building, which is my favorite building downtown, still.
Okay.
This is the closing party at LA Nicola. Yeah, LA Nicola.
What's this one?
This is... I'm not sure.
Let me check. This is Larry's parents with Luke. Okay, say that again.
This is my brother Alan who built LA Nicola. This is my family. This is me, my sister Leslie, my brother Dale, my brother Alan, my dad, my mom's best friend Elizabeth, and my sister-in-law
Sister.
Anna.
Sister-in-law.
Yeah.
Okay. This is what your dad used to say?
Oh, no, he said, well, he used to say, the ticks have passed, I'm beat to my socks, I'll plant you now and dig you later. But this is a little
Okay.
approaching.
Like Albert
No.
Einstein.
Albert Einstein, Jim Croce, or
Oh, here's
Larry
LA Nicola.
Nicola.
There you go.
This is great.
Oh, that's a good one.
This is your whole staff?
Yeah.
Great. I got it. A good one. Okay, this is Tom LaBonge, Larry, and Larry's mom. Okay.
That's my
We're
brother
gonna
and
get
my
Tom
mom.
LaBonge on tape eventually.
We got married at the train station downtown. We worked on it for 10 years to reopen the Fred Harvey restaurant. And Rotundi was in on it. Wayne Ratkovich was in on it. Emmett Wemple. We're all there, and then they decided they didn't want to do anything with the facility. But we had worked on it for 10 years to reopen the Fred Harvey restaurant.
Yeah.
Relatives.
Wait, hold. This is in Lebanon with Larry's relatives.
Jim Croce.
Just another Jim Croce. Now say who your brothers are, who you
This
are
is
here.
Dale,
Uh-huh.
me, and Alan. See, our names are on our shirts.
All right. Franklin Avenue, what year does it say?
This is going to be...
Franklin Avenue class of Larry Nicola.
1961.
Okay.
Where?
There's Larry. Okay. There's Larry in 1959 at Franklin Avenue, and this is
Fred Nicola.
your cousin.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is from LA Nicola. We had the Lebanese
Right.
extravaganza.
You had a Lebanese extravaganza at
We have,
LA Nicola.
yeah, we had everybody dressed up in Arabic food. We have.
It's on a flying carpet.
Yeah.
You do this on the weekend, or?
We'd have a party. We'd close down and have a big party.
And this says it's
Everybody
the
was dressed in
martini hour.
hair
This could be
outfits, belly
Larry, but it
dancers.
could also be me with a mustache. because I spent a lot of time in a martini glass.
It's
lately.
Echo Park with my Alpha ring.
That's great, Larry.
One more time.
This is in front of our house on Tracy Street, right across the street from Marshall High.
Okay.
That's the same.
This is Mike and Les in front of the market on Fountain,
Sunset Fountain.
Sunset and Fountain, yeah. Okay. This is Los Angeles Magazine.
The date is January 1988.
There's an article, A Day in the Life, and it's about Larry and Nicola. Okay. This is at LA Nicola, Larry and his dad.
This is California Living from the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner, February 20th, 1983, with a cover shot
Let me see.
of Larry and some of his dishes.
Uh-huh. Great. Okay.
Hey, that's good looking.
This is another article from the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner, Thursday, April 14th, 1983. No hash slinger. LA eats.
That's very nice.
Okay, I'm going to wrap this up, folks. Larry, thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
The information is priceless, and it's good to see you again.
Nice to see you.
And Cheryl, thanks
Oh, it
again
was
for another
wonderful.
wonderful interview.
I learned a lot and
And our
feel
guests.
even more proud of
Oh, my God.
But we lost a
No,
guest. There she is.
myself.
All right, that's it. Thank you all.